I'm not golfing today, and since I'm not golfing today, I thought I would do this instead. Usually I do it on Tuesdays, but we'll do it on Mondays today. First things first, we gotta check the sea levels. I encourage everybody to do this, especially if you care about the environment. They still haven't changed the data since November 2022. Let me make it bigger here. No, that's not good. Reset. Like that. Man, they changed it again. They're making it really tough to look at the data. I tweeted them, I don't know, about a month ago, because they shifted the whole curve down by like double the margin of error. But as you can see here, November 2022, sea levels have risen 96.7 millimeters over 2013 levels. No, sorry, 1993 levels. That's the year I got married. And it has not made new highs since for a long time. What? They don't even tell you what month anymore. They're making it tough. But no worries there. Let's check global temperature. Global temperature. See, that looks better. Why can't they do the same thing on the other chart? This is global temperature, 2022. Hasn't made new highs in 6 years, and it's still below 7 years ago. So global temperature hasn't increased above 7 years, 2015 levels, and it's still way below 2020 and 2016. So take encouragement in that. Why am I worried? I'm worried because of this. I look at the monthly Treasury report every month or every other month, and I saw a new record. And this is the new record I saw here. This is just the month of March in fiscal 2023. Let me just make it big. Net interest, 67 billion. You see that? I've been tracking this for, I don't know, decades. I've never seen it this high. Still below national defense, but some months it's actually equal to national defense, the amount of interest paid. Now, why some people say, especially the Keynesians in the world who don't care about money, or they care, but they just think you can just print as much as you want. Why is this a problem? You know those investment schemes you sometimes see where you're promised huge rates of return, like let's say 15% or 12%. And really what it is, it's a business. It might have a good idea, might not. It's irrelevant. But they make this promise of a certain return. And the way they pay you your return of, let's say, 12% is by getting new investors. So they get new investors, they take their money, and they use some of that money to pay old investors so they can get their return. Some people call that a Ponzi scheme. The reason why I'm a little bit worried is because once you get your interest payments to be like a significant budget item that starts to crowd out things like national defense, health, and so forth, then where do you get the money to pay the interest on the money? By selling more bonds, by getting more investors. And it becomes sort of like a Ponzi scheme. And if you look down here, we're halfway through this fiscal year, because it's the year ends September 30th, the government year. September, October, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, exactly halfway through. And a deficit of 1.1 billion. No, this is 1.1 trillion. Deficit of 1.1 trillion. Is that right? Yeah, it is. 1,000 billion is a trillion. So we got 1.1 trillion deficit already halfway through. This is not good. And what's happened in the last 6 months to make this so bad? I mean, there's no national tragedies, nothing major in the economy except for one thing, inflation. And that's probably why the deficit's so high. Because of inflation, Social Security has gone up, income security, health, national defense. I think they adjusted that for inflation. Inflation's a killer. Hear that, Keynesian people? Inflation's a killer. You just can't keep printing like you are. So this is why I'm a little worried. Now the question is, what's the solutions? People can complain all they want. What's the solution? Back in the early 80s, Canada had a similar problem where the interest as a percentage of its budget was starting to get really high. Their debt per capita was pretty high. I think it was the early 80s. And maybe it was late 80s. And they instituted the GST, General Sales Tax. Now, I lean capitalistic and I don't like taxes. I think taxes should be lower. But if you want to fix this problem, I'm going to use shocking language because it keeps people awake. You got to start taxing the poor. You got to start taxing the middle class. And the way you do that is you tax consumption. If you want actual lots of money coming into the treasury to keep deficits down, and therefore keep interest payments down. And I did a little math on a napkin, and I think the GDP in the United States is around 26 trillion, something like that. Half of that is personal consumption, what everyday normal people buy in goods and services. So let's say that's 13 trillion. If you have a 7% general sales tax on 13 trillion, you can actually have close to $1 trillion coming into the treasury. That would solve a lot of problems. But I have a feeling Americans are different than Canadians. Canadians tend to just shut up and take it. They don't like to complain to their governments that often, at least not to the extent Americans do. And so there might be revolts. Can you imagine paying a 7% national sales tax on everything you buy? You buy a $100,000 house, you're paying $107,000. Cars, food, everything. 7%. So you pay your sales tax, your city tax, your state tax, and then a national tax. I think that's the only way out of this mess. Or no, there's another way. Another way is you let people suffer greatly. At some point, the poop's going to hit the fan. You got to let a depression take place, and you basically got you have to let people suffer. We cheat on taxes hard here, Jack of Trades. Well, that's another problem. You start raising taxes on people, and you incentivize cheating. I want to, since it's tax season, I want to do a little quiz here. What percentage? What do you think? I want you to write your answer in the live stream chat, and I don't want you to cheat. The top 1% in the United States. What's your guess? What the average effective tax rate is for them? What they actually end up paying? Put it in the live stream chat. What do you think the top 1% actually pay in taxes? Their effective tax rate? I'm looking up the answer as we speak. Huh. Why can't I find it? I thought I saw it here. But while I'm looking for it, put in your guess. Yeah, I found it. I should also ask you to put if you lean Republican or Democrat when you give your guess. The top 1%, what is their effective tax rate that they actually pay? We've got 55, 25, 40, 42, 50, 37, 50, 66. I mean, this is after all your deductions and everything. National, federal income tax, not state. Percentage-wise, yep. Let's see, who's the closest so far? Oh, there's one person here who's actually pretty close. Trent, congratulations. Trent said 25%. It's actually 26%. The top 1% pays 26% federal income tax. Guess what the bottom 50% of taxpayers pay? Put your guess on that one. Bottom 50%, 50. What do bottom middle class and below, what's the average effective federal income tax rate? Trent, good for you. You're a Democrat who actually knows things about taxes. Because you hear so often, Trent, about people saying these billionaires, they pay lower tax rates than nurses, that sort of thing. Trent says 10%. Bill says or I think he meant 1. 8%, 0%, 7%. The correct answer is 3.1%. So getting back to how do you get rid of deficits, you can't tax the rich enough to get there. You actually have to start taxing the middle class and lower. I know that feels and sounds really icky to people, but it's the truth. In fact, you could just take everything that the top 1% has. And as far as the debt goes, ain't going to make a dent. As far as the deficit goes, it'll make a dent, but then you've taken everything they have, so it's a one-time deal. They don't have any money left to make more money. Now guess what percentage the top 1% pays of the total taxes. Put your answer in the live stream chat. Northwest Backcountry is giving a solution of what we can do. I should put up the chat here. Some possible solutions: just cut the government. But there's a problem. People revolt when they're used to getting stuff and then you take it away. I'm reminded of my daughter who had a pacifier. It was a purple pacifier and she loved it. And then we would hide it. We didn't want her to have it. So we would hide her purple pacifier, and then she knew it was in the house. So she kept crying for it. And then we packed her up in the minivan. And the women, there's no women here, but the women in the crowd they're going to think I'm a terrible father. But my daughter was crying for her pacifier. I showed her I'm driving the minivan. I showed her the pacifier. I opened my window and I threw it out. She knew from that day forward she'll never have that pacifier again, and she stopped crying for it. Social programs are basically the same thing as my daughter's purple pacifier. Once people are used to it, even if you hide it from them and you threaten that it's going to go away, they will still cry out for it until they know there's no choice here. It no longer exists. So to cut taxes, and you got to remember, most of the tax revenue that comes in is not paid for national defense. It's not paid for even food stamps or, typical welfare programs. It's paid for what? Where does most of the money go? It goes to Social Security, Medicare for old people, income security, which is, I guess, your welfare program. So that'd be number 3. And then comes national defense. But anyhow, my earlier question was what percentage of the total tax revenues coming in is paid by the top 1%. I think, let me double check here. Top 1% pays 22.2% of all tax revenue. The top 5% pays 37%, 38%. The top 10% pays 37, 40, about 50%. The top 10% of wage earners in this country pay half the taxes. No, that's not true. That's, hang on. I take that back. Share of total income taxes paid. Top 1% pays 42%. Top 5% pays 62%. The top 10% pay 72%. This always interests me when people say the rich need to pay their fair share. How much more do you want them to pay? The top 10% pays 75% of all taxes. You want it to be 100%? Is that what you're saying? So if you can't cut government spending because of the purple pacifier theorem, and you don't want people to revolt, you basically have to increase taxes. And I think the general sales tax is probably the only way. You have to start taxing consumption, not income. See, for a guy like me, that doesn't bother me. Even though I lean capitalist, I can say, go ahead, tax consumption. You know why? Because I don't spend money. At least not that much. I drive a 1998 Lexus. My house is nice, but it's not extravagant. I was raised Mennonite. Mennonites don't spend money usually. My Samsung phone sitting on my desk is all cracked up, and I refuse to buy a new one until it dies. I wanted to play, getting back to what someone said about we should just cut spending, the government should just cut spending. The problem is one of entitlement. And my poker buddy, Bob, sent me this, and I just looked at it today. And this is the epitome of entitlement, this type of attitude, that you are owed things just by merely existing. It's so repulsive to me. I can't let people know enough how, when people demand things of other people, it's one of the most repulsive things you can do in life. I have no problem with a person looking me in the eye and saying, hey man, I'm hungry. Can you buy me some food? A-okay with that. But if a poor person comes up to me, looks me in the eye and says, you owe me. You go in that store and you buy me food. I am owed. Like, if you have that type of attitude, it doesn't help. Like, there are people who would almost be willing to just let you die if that's the attitude you have.
So who got hit in the face?
I think our security team lead.
Okay, and who hit him?
They guessed that he
Okay, here's the background. A woman goes into a grocery store. I don't know how much money she has. And she says her bill comes out to $1,000 in groceries. And she expects Target to pay the difference.
21, safe fire.
4487, 27, 4421, repeat.
Safer fire. So what happened?
She
Okay, you
demanded
seem
us to
secure
requisition
at
out $1,000 in
2046.
merchandise.
Okay.
Came up, I tried to verbally de-escalate.
Uh-huh.
She told me that she wanted to wreck it out, and I told her we couldn't do that.
Okay.
And then she said, "Excuse me," and I was like, "Man, like I need you to back up or leave, like, but we can't do that for you." So she started charging at me. I came all the way back into my office, into an enclosed space,
Uh-huh.
and I hit her in the face.
Okay. Are you
And I have
okay?
it all on video.
Ma'am, are you okay?
Has everybody here seen this already? And I'm late to the party. I just saw this today.
Physically, I'm okay. Emotionally, I am there.
Car 4 David 31
Okay.
in front of the big lot,
Let me test
825
your
Main.
Now, I read all the comments below this, and the first thing that a lot of people say is, mental illness is a real problem, and, this lady's mentally ill. I don't think so. I think the whole thing, and you guys can judge it for yourself, but I don't think she's mentally ill at all. I think she just, if she does have a mental illness, it's called victimhood. It's called a bad part of liberalism, of feel sorry forism. Like, you need to feel sorry for me. You need to give me stuff.
Investigate for suspicion.
According to the manager's statement, a cashier called over the manager where the suspect was kind of whispering, asking her to make reparations regarding her groceries of over $1,000. The manager told the suspect that if she wanted a donation, she needed to call in the morning. This response led the suspect to become verbally aggressive, screaming, and forcing the manager to back into the cabinet counter.
Now, this lady's not small. She looks like...
A security staff member intervened and told the suspect to calm down. Before the
She
suspect
looks like at least 5'8", maybe even 5'10", and probably close to 200 pounds.
began backing him into the security office while screaming.
Yeah, see, he's walking backwards, and she's...
Inside the office, the security staff member punched the suspect in self-defense and then called the police.
See, I would never have done that, what this guy did. I understand why he did it, but I would have just backed up and sat in my chair, and then if she wanted to sit on my lap, so be it. She can give me a lap dance.
Got an, left side.
glasses?
Those are my glasses that he knocked off my face, yes.
I tried to close you out of my office and you just kept on pushing your way in.
That's right.
No, sir. I didn't push my way in.
Yes,
I
you
came. No, I came around the corner quickly.
Hey, would you
I did not
both
push
quit
the
talking?
door.
Hey, no.
Excuse you?
Stop talking. When I'm telling you, you stop talking. Okay?
Do you know who I am?
I will figure that out when I get your ID.
Okay, now that sounds like a little bit of mental illness. Do you know who I am? Because she's serious. She's not joking around. Sometimes I say, do you know who I am? I'm Pine Creek. But I'm clearly joking. I'm not mentally ill, honest. So maybe she is a little bit crazy there.
We have cameras here, right? That's all that matters.
You clearly don't know
Man.
who I am.
Man.
Is your ID in here?
Talk. Is your ID in here?
No,
Okay.
my ID isn't here.
May I see it?
Sure. Why do you need my ID? You're not taking his.
To identify him. We know who he is.
How? What's his name?
We've been here
What's his name?
many, many times.
You identified
Can
him.
I
What's
have your
his name?
ID?
If I have to give my ID in this situation,
I'll
why
get his
doesn't
ID
he?
too. Don't worry
Exactly.
about it.
This has
All
to
right,
be
you're
right.
just digging a hole here.
No.
Let me have
One thing about being a good parent is teaching your children to accept the things they can't control. Now, you can make steps in society to make greater change over long periods of time, but when you're in a situation like this with police officers, with armed police officers, accept the things you can't control. I've been in situations where, especially crossing the border into Canada, where clearly the border guards are not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Where I've had my green card, they start questioning me how I got it and stuff. And a part of me just thinks, you either accept this federal ID card or you don't. I feel like saying stuff like that to them. But no, you can't. You have to smile, be polite, and accept the things you can't control. And this border guard can refuse entry to me. And I have to accept that. You almost gotta it's sometimes a burden and a curse. And I know a lot of you people watching right now are above average intelligence. When you're talking to people who are, let's say, average intelligence or a little bit below and are having a bad day or have some type of power complex, you have to give in to them. You have to let them have it. That's the smarter thing to do. This lady here has not been taught any of that by her father or mother.
We're gonna do this the right way.
Ma'am,
We've been doing it the
ID.
wrong way for a
ID.
long. No, thank
Yes,
you.
it is.
Thank
Keep your
you.
ID.
Thank you. No, we're gonna do this properly. If we're gonna have this conversation,
Exactly. Be polite, keep your mouth shut, and wait for the judge. Exactly right.
we will do it properly.
Were you, yeah. So, if you want to go first, like, what happened?
Okay, so I was walking by, and Dean calls me and says that this woman asked to speak to a manager.
Okay.
Which, like, happens a lot, you know. So,
First of all, this, come here, Claire.
Oh, that's cool.
This is her board.
Okay.
That's her files, and she said,
Stephanie, everything is videotaped, like in the hallways, in the office. So yeah, I think the guy did the right thing by backing up and letting her chase him.
I'm not going to have enough money to pay for this. I need to talk to the manager. She happened to be walking by.
Okay, and you were a manager? Okay.
I'm closing the
And
phone
so
tonight.
they started here, and you can finish that part.
Okay, so I came around and I was like, hey, what can I do for you?
Okay.
Usually it's like the price is wrong or whatever. She starts going on this spiel
King 31,
about like
Deer Park's been advised.
about how like I've had a privileged life and she's been disadvantaged, and then said that she was asking Target to make reparations for her. And I said, that's not something we can do.
Yeah, see, and I'm going to talk to you liberals right now. Some of you, not all of you, some of you have aided and abetted in this type of attitude. I deserve reparations. So therefore, a private company called Target, who I think is owned 50% by a Canadian corporation, Hudson something. Yeah. Target owes me money.
Tonight, if you need a donation, like you can call
Okay,
tomorrow. I
this
can
was
put
for
you in touch
possible
like
D&E,
with
correct?
the HR person, but like that isn't something I can do for you like right now tonight.
Okay.
And then she was like, you need to put me in touch with someone tonight. And I was like, I can't. There isn't
Okay.
like
Strange.
yeah.
Strange.
So like she just basically just kept saying that, and then she got really close to me. So I put my hands up and backed up, and she like followed me. She was like breathing into my eyeballs.
This is why I think it's always good to eat a bunch of garlic for breakfast, because you never know what kind of confrontation you'll be in later that day. And if someone wants to get in your personal space, just go.
She's screaming at you, or
Yeah. So she got really close to me. I put my hands up. I touched her shoulders because she was like coming into my space.
Okay.
And then she like, because I touched her, she like
Illinois 87
went
Launch
in
Public Service Care Unit.
after that and just started screaming really loudly and like backed me up against the soda machine.
Okay.
And then that's when like our security she called our security person and he came over and like intervened.
So what caused the issue then here today?
Because
Check
I
lane
came
10.
in,
Actually, it's kind of
Target is somewhat of a home for me.
Midnight Rambler says, I don't think this is a left or right issue. I think that's what you're saying. I mean, we can find white conservative Karen screaming entitlement too. Yeah, I understand, and you're right. But what I'm saying about the whole mentality of reparations and things like racism, calling people racist, calling people homophobic. I remember listening to Hamza's Den. And these are pretty conservative Muslims, but they will use what I'll just call these liberal talking points to their advantage. Like if you say anything bad against Islam, you're Islamic phobic. It's hurling words out to defame people for hearing things they don't like. And to me, this is just disgusting behavior.
And we were going to have a big discussion here, and I asked her to do it nicely.
Who are you going to have this big discussion with?
With Target, whoever in Target I needed to speak with.
What were you asking her to do?
Reach out to her manager so we can have a larger discussion about how money works and how provision works and how it's been working in our community in a very wrong way.
Can you elaborate a little?
Oh man. She, I think, wants to educate the Target employees on how money works. Huh. I would have been tempted if I worked there to say, where did you get your economics degree from? Which university?
A little bit, go into further detail?
Sure. I was asking with the support of my community to come behind me in a big way to have
her community. What is her community? There's so many questions I would love to ask. What exactly is your community? Do you think you represent all people with dark skin, for example? Is that your community, all people with dark skin? I told this to my friends playing poker last night. My brother-in-law from Canada came visiting, and he's black. They're Trinidadian descent. And he relayed a story of when his dad took him on a trip in the United States, and their car broke down in a bad area of some major city. And my brother-in-law said, it's fine, Dad. Like, they have the same skin color as us. He was very young at the time. And my father-in-law said, lock the doors. These are not the same type of black people as us. This is what my father-in-law said. So I would be curious to know, does she represent my father-in-law's community? Because my father-in-law would probably say no. And I bet you there's white communities that are more representative of her community. I think what she's saying is just very poor people.
There have been people subjugated and locked out of things. We have decided we were not going to have a bigger conversation. I decided to take a stand. This is my Rosa Parks moment, dude.
Rosa Parks.
Don't play with me.
I'm just listening. That's all I'm doing.
We're having a conversation about how to reconcile the fact that some people benefited off of a system that was rigged against other people. I asked nicely to have that conversation.
Okay, what were you asking for?
For her to connect me with who I could talk to.
What was your purpose of that further conversation? What were you going to ask that person for to do?
Yeah, see, and this is what I call feel sorry for-ism. Like some people on the left would say, she's right here. Like, there's been problems historically among African Americans, and she should be compensated for the generational curse or whatever of racism, systemic racism. But the thing is, at some point, you got to, I'm going to be very harsh here, you got to grow out of it. You got to say it's 2023. There are no racial laws on the books. Sure, there's racist people in the United States, but judges, juries can adjudicate these things if you've been harmed. There are many African Americans who will watch this lady and say, she does not represent me and my family. In fact, I wish, I'm guessing here, I bet you there's a lot of African Americans who are saying, I wish this lady would shut up, because when people look at her and look at me, they think I'm like her, and I'm not. I'm not in her community. She does not represent me. We're not a monolith. Can I get an amen from black people?
The lies around money.
What's that mean?
We all know money has not been treating everybody equally.
Money?
Okay.
What? Did she just say money?
Break the lies around money.
What's that mean?
We all know money has not been treating everybody equally.
Money is a piece of paper. It doesn't treat people in any way.
Okay.
Money is not the only way for things to happen. It's
Were
not.
you asking for them to make a donation, essentially? Or to let you have them for free?
No,
What was it?
I was coming up to the limit of where I had money. I was trying to ask if Target would comp me
Comp you.
the rest, and we would have a conversation.
You got to do a whole lot of gambling in Target for them to comp you $1,000 worth of groceries.
Bubble up a bigger conversation about why, because I know the heart of this place.
Okay.
It's the right place for me to have this conversation.
Yeah, Target's a good company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was trying to have a hard conversation in a safe place.
Yeah. So did you?
No.
I got up there,
People
I
hit
feel
me
like
for
that's
that.
exactly what was said.
I did it the right way.
And then when I was
I went through the right steps. They kept. The reason, the problem why money doesn't work right is because it blocks people at checkpoints.
She claims she did it the right way. Well, I still don't know what her goal is definitely to get free stuff. So the right way to get free stuff, in my opinion, is to ask nicely. Maybe even beg, but not to demand or expect. Maybe if you want to be a little cynical, you can actually manipulate people using guilt to get free stuff. And you see this with people, you know, on the signs on roads. They will say things like, God bless, hungry. They're appealing to Christians, saying, hey, your Bible says you need to help me, so help me. I actually am more likely to give to poor people in the street who don't say God bless, who don't use some type of emotional manipulation, but just say thank you. And then I actually make them work before I give them some money. Like, tell me a joke. Tell me a joke for $1.
And I'm tired of people locking good people out. You don't get paid what you deserve. Nearly as much, because choosing to do the right thing in this world costs us monetarily. That's not fair. The system is rigged against people doing the right thing.
Okay.
Because this world is selfish.
I won't disagree with that.
I was trying to
This world is selfish. She wanted $1,000 of groceries comped.
have a bigger discussion of that. How selfish people are holding other people down for their. Y'all are in this too.
So can I
I
ask?
live across. This is the aisle I crossed because my dad was a police officer in the military. He hit my mom. She called you guys. We lived in a white neighborhood. I knew you were good because I knew my dad. He was supposed to come in and mediate,
Whoa.
but he wasn't comfortable with the way we looked. So he stood at the door and said, ma'am, you should just stay. And she listened, and it broke our entire...
Yeah, there's some deep emotional trauma there. Her dad was abusive to her mom, and apparently white policemen didn't help. So therefore she doesn't like white policemen for that reason, which is ironic because some African Americans I have heard don't want white policemen in their communities. It sounds like she's mad at white policemen for not stepping into her house and intervening.
Family. He did not do his job because he was scared.
Yes, Cafe Brojo. Yeah, there's a plan to my madness. I'm linking this to Ayn. How do you say her first name? Dr. Ron.
No, I will give you another example.
Can I talk for a second?
Sure.
All right. So to simplify what happened outside, you had a...
Doug, you actually don't think this person's mentally ill? Actually, Eileen, no. I think she's sad and emotional. But I'm not a professional licensed therapist.
Certain amount of money that was with you, correct? And you asked somebody to cover the rest, correct? That was your goal? That was your goal, correct? To cover the rest?
Yes,
And were you can I please finish?
But I don't think her dad beating her mom has anything to do necessarily with her wanting to be comped $1,000 worth of groceries.
Yeah.
Were you anticipating that matter would be resolved right here, right now?
I think she just brought it up to get people. She's doing some type of emotional manipulation right now, in my opinion. In fact, one could argue that she's not mentally ill, but she's very sharp and she's using guilt to her advantage.
Okay.
I knew I asked her to put me in touch with the right people.
Because that would be unreasonable to anticipate that somebody at this level could monetarily make a decision for a business.
But they blocked me from the bigger...
Well, you could have called us. We could have absolutely helped you get a phone number. The internet's got phone numbers. We could have found it. You could have found
That's
it.
fine, but I wasn't the wrong one in the situation.
Ashley was able to tell me as far as the door. Because she said the door shut and she couldn't see you two inside.
Yeah, so I tried to literally close her out, but at that point she was like pretty much running, so she barreled her way in and then kept coming into my office.
I'm sorry?
As of today, you're trespassing for target.
On the basis of you hitting me?
Man, let's go.
Outside.
No, that is not going to
Either
happen.
you walk out on your own or in handcuffs.
Oh, I will be arrested for this cause.
Okay, come on.
No, I'm
Come
not
on,
going to move.
don't make this more
Nope,
difficult
you're
than it
gonna
has to
no.
be.
It's gonna be on camera. Where are you holding your lines at?
Come on.
So it's very straightforward. Any business can refuse a customer. If I go to Wendy's and I like my haircut, they don't have to serve me.
Does he have to?
That is all this is.
So
He
he gets the right to
He's right. You can discriminate based on haircuts.
kick me out after he hits me. He didn't bubble
So-
that. He can't bubble that up in management.
He is
I
speaking on
asked-
behalf of the company at this
Really?
point. That's
Exactly.
what he's doing.
So he can speak on behalf of the company at that level, but he couldn't do it there.
I wasn't out there. I'm sure tensions were a little different than they are at this moment in time.
What I would have gotten back to the expecting to be calmed. I would have asked her point blank, do you really expect Target to give you free stuff? Yes or no? Lean yes, lean no. And if she says yes, I would ask why? Why should a private company like Target give you free stuff? What did you do to deserve it? If she answers no, I didn't expect Target to give me free stuff, then why did you chase the guy into his office? Why did you get into the face of the person if you expected that the manager would say no?
So,
No, you're gonna reconcile that. You're not going to give me any more lies. You will tell the truth about the situation. No. You are trying to arrest me for...
Yeah, I agree, Stephanie. It's the same mentality as looters on the riots. It's like the world has done me so much harm. I deserve to just take what I want.
For him hitting me.
Correct. You are under arrest.
Yes.
You're under arrest for menacing and disorderly conduct. Okay? Now, here's what we would like to do. We would rather you walk outside and not make a big deal. If you're going to make a big deal, we're going to have to handcuff you and do all that other stuff.
Yes, you will.
Let's go.
She, like at this point, she wants to be cuffed. She wants to be a martyr for the cause. She used the word cause and for her community. The thing is, I don't know. I would love to know the perception of some person in the live stream chat said I shouldn't use the term liberal, use leftist. I don't know what to call them. Wacko, some followers of Wacko CRT maybe. What's their perception of what's going on here? Do they support this lady? Are they totally, yeah, I'm on her side here? Cuff her just to show how evil these white police officers are?
Well, I'm not going to...
Don't get resisting too. Okay?
Let's do it.
Let's not.
If we're going to go into it, let's do it. If you're going to hold every line, you know what happened here.
I know. I just watched the video.
I asked to open a conversation, and he's still blocking me out, and you guys are protecting it.
Ma'am, you chased the one employee all the way to the front, okay? You made contact with her body by pushing your body into hers. I just watched it clear as day on the video.
Okay.
He then came out, and you followed him all the way back here,
Okay.
making him fear for his safety. You backed him into an office, and you got hit in the face, unfortunately.
When people who are backed into a corner, they can choose, they can choose to do the right thing, or they can choose to lash out.
Okay, you were in the wrong here, just so we're
I
clear.
held the line.
You didn't hold
And
the line.
I moved my line continuously. I asked, and when they did not respect, they were gatekeeping me. Like the whole world has kept people.
Man, you were free to leave at any time,
Absolutely.
but you didn't.
Absolutely.
So
because it wasn't
you
right.
amplified the situation. No, you wanted something
when the
for
laws
free.
are not right,
You wanted something.
you
for
make a
free.
stand so they can change.
Yeah, I think she's trying to become like a Martin Luther or something. Like, this is virtue signaling to the highest. It's like, I got the moral high ground here. I'm willing to be a martyr for the cause. Like, I do not think she's mentally ill at all. I think she knows exactly what she's doing, and she's manipulating the situation. And for some people, I think it'll work.
Are you ready to go outside?
If the laws are meant to hold people down, you will fight for me, my community.
Okay, let's go outside.
You will come for me.
Okay, let's go outside.
Yeah, she's being a preacher right now.
Trying to give you the chance right now, just like before. You're elevating the situation when it doesn't need to be. It's already done.
It's not done.
It's done.
Absolutely
Tonight
not.
it's done.
No, it's not.
See, now, for you people who lean capitalist like me, this is the argument for socialism, right? What we're watching right here. And it's really sad in a way, because basically you have to pay off people. It's sort of like protection money. Socialism is a little bit like protection money to keep people from robbing you, to keep people from making scenes in private property, to have more civilized communities. Because if you don't give us what we want, we will cause trouble. So the argument for socialism is you make people comfortable, stable, so they don't cause trouble. I'll be the first to say this is a horrible argument to me on a moral level, but there is some truth to it. I mean, it does work. If you give people enough money and whatever they want, they tend to be a little bit happier, at least in the short run, and less likely to cause trouble. My cousin is, I don't know, he's changed, but he's a bit of a socialist type. And this is the argument he made to me. He says, yeah, you want to pay people, sometimes not even to work, just so they don't rob you. You don't want them coming to your house or coming to your place of business and just taking stuff and shooting stuff up. So you got to pay them off. But isn't that sad? That becomes almost like protection money.
People that look like you are done trying to gatekeep people that look like me.
No, ma'am.
What happened? What happened?
You got mad at them because they wouldn't give you
Did you
your card
live-
for free.
There's probably more white people in the United States that look like these police officers living in Kentucky or Tennessee or Georgia, wherever, who are poorer than this lady.
No.
Yes.
You saw my heart. You understand what I was trying to do. I explained it to you.
Yeah, you were trying to have them comp some of the extra stuff. Yes. Stuff
Through
that you
a
couldn't
large
afford.
conversation.
And then that large conversation spoiled into this, unfortunately. And this is
Correct.
where we are. That just because your intentions were good does not make this any less illegal, unfortunately.
Right.
So we
But
have.
what happens when
So
laws
give me 2 seconds.
are
She said, right. She just admitted to doing something illegal.
not okay for people?
Whatever you say can and be used against you in the court of law.
We need to talk
I have
about
to
it.
enforce the laws that are in place. Okay, that is our job. That is our goal.
But he's not getting arrested for assault?
It's not assault.
He's defending himself.
We're all watching this, right?
Absolutely.
We're all watching this together. You see where the police are holding the lines of my people?
My people? Who are your people? Who? Does this lady speak for all African Americans? Is that her people? And look at this guy in the back. This is the guy who punched her as she was following him into his office. I put him at maybe $170, 170 pounds, maybe 180. I put her at 5'8" and 210. I don't know. Could have been a close fight if
You were completely
The
in
laws.
the wrong.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you were.
No. This
But
is
here's
the
the thing,
problem.
even if we're wrong, that's what court's for. So we don't need to argue about
Yeah.
it. We just have to go with what probable cause and what the law states, okay? You can't touch other people, okay? You can't make other
I
people.
didn't.
You did, I watched the video. Okay? You can't do that. You can't make people feel for their safety. That's why it's menacing, okay? You can't chase employees back in offices.
I
That's
asked-
disorderly
He
conduct.
asked me, he was gatekeeping me.
Ma'am, you were free to leave.
like she's using these terms like she's been around a community organizer too long.
No, he knew about the police. He said, I will call the police. And instead of doing that, he ran back here
And you chased him.
to have that
No,
conversation.
ma'am, you are completely wrong.
No, there was
Yes.
not any times that my hands came up to do anything to anybody.
You're not being
What I
charged
did,
with
I
assault.
stood my ground.
Okay, and you
And
were
when
wrong.
people, no, I wasn't. Standing your ground is not wrong if you're standing it in the truth.
Okay.
If there are places where the system is broken and rigged against people, anybody.
Okay.
She stood her ground. Okay, we're at 7:13. She stood her ground.
Needed to call in the morning. This response led the suspect to become verbally aggressive, screaming, and forcing the manager to back into the cafe counter.
Like, at some point, you got to just say this woman's lying. She didn't stand her ground. She walked and lunged in front of this other lady and pushed her with her belly. She has a lot of belly, and she used her belly to her advantage. Stood your ground would mean that's much, like, look at this. Look at the height difference. Look at the intimidation. I mean, now if this lady would have stood her ground, she probably would have fell over.
People, anybody.
Okay. Here's
The
what we're gonna
rules need to change.
do. Okay.
To what?
They're not changing.
To
tonight.
what? Oh, did he ask that?
Okay. We have to go
No,
by.
see, if I was a police officer, I'd have fun with her. Well, let's get a piece of paper out. Let's write down what the rules should change too. Everybody in my community gets free food at Target. You want that as a law? Is that what you're asking for?
The Ohio Revised Code.
You're holding me down. This is what we're going to do right now in this moment.
You are going
Right
to
now
get
you're under
arrested.
arrest, yes.
For him hitting me, I'm clearing this up.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what I was trying to do?
I understand what you're trying to do. It doesn't make it any less illegal.
I would get her to state in one sentence, what were you trying to do? Just get her to admit, I was trying to get free food.
Happened today, okay?
I understand.
So-
but you're not having that bigger conversation with them and helping level them up and understanding. You're
I
like,
explained what you were.
For a guy like me, I was trying to have a bigger conversation. This is like a Christian's way of saying, I'm looking for a more nuanced conversation here. It's almost like this was all planned. Like she got up in the morning and a community organizer sat with her and said, hey, let's do something fun today. I want you to go into a Target and I want you to buy about $1,000 worth of groceries and not have nearly enough money to pay for it. And then make a ruckus, get the police involved, and so we can, like, I don't know, spread the message.
What you did, just because there's a deeper thought and a deeper level
but
that
he-
you have
no,
doesn't make it
the
less illegal.
The deeper part was he wasn't the right person to have that conversation with. He did not do his part Instead, he hit me.
Defending himself,
He hit a
yes.
woman.
Oh, see? He hit a woman. This also bothers me like crazy. Hey, women, if there's women out there listening, sometimes you deserve to be hit. If you're coming at a guy, especially if you believe in equality, if you're a woman who believes in equality, you should say, amen, some women deserve to be hit. If you're coming at a guy and the guy is smaller than you and the guy's trying to defend himself, and if he thinks you're going to hurt him and you keep coming at him and he keeps backing away, which this guy did, at some point, self-defense is going to be used as an excuse in a court of law. And hey, women, you're going to lose. You're going to lose that trial. Especially if you outweigh the guy and bigger than the guy. No one's going to feel sorry for you for just being a woman.
A woman out of his own fear.
I'm not disagreeing. He hit a woman today. Yeah, absolutely he did. And it was in his own defense.
There you
So
go.
what we are going to do is either A, we can walk out peacefully, or B, we can do it in cuffs.
Why was he not being arrested? And because he...
By the way, she got hit in the face and she took it like a champ.
He said he could have called the cops. He realized he had a choice in that
Yeah,
moment.
It just shows you how weak and small the guy was. Like, no blood. Actually, let's show the punch again. Where's the punch?
Chased him into his office. So here's the deal, okay? When we're done, I need you to turn around, put your hands behind your back. You're under.
Staff member punched the suspect in self-defense and then called the police.
Got left side.
Yeah, it looked like a big punch, but she, like, took it well.
You see it? Your job is with good people.
I don't disagree that you're a good person. Here, keep on walking. We're almost here.
No, we're having a conversation.
Absolutely. We'll have a conversation from the back seat. Come on.
You're going to sit in the back seat with me?
I'll stand outside the back seat.
Oh my goodness. The neediness is just so repulsive. You're going to sit in the back seat with me? I want to talk. I want to have a deeper conversation. Talk to the judge. Okay, let's tie this into Ayn Rand. This is an old video, black and white, but sometimes the oldies are the best. Man, Mike Wallace is young here. Ayn Rand is, I guess, a philosopher? And she has an interesting take on how the economy should work, how society should work. And someone a couple weeks ago asked me to give my opinion on her, and I said, I'll give no opinion right now, but I'll give it during this.
Based on
Ayn Rand. Miss Rand's point of view is still comparatively unknown in America, but if it ever did take hold, it would revolutionize our lives. And Ayn, to begin with, I wonder if I can ask you to capsulize, I know this is difficult, can I ask you to capsulize your philosophy? What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it Objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain.
Yeah, so she's not postmodern. She thinks that reality exists, whether we exist or not.
Explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute. That man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it. And that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality, which has so far been believed impossible, namely, a morality not based on faith.
On faith?
Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason, a morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary,
All right.
I love a woman who's dead inside.
All right.
Now, may I define what my morality is?
All right.
Because this is merely an introduction. My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on Earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
May I interrupt now?
You may.
Because you put this philosophy to work in your novel Atlas Shrugged.
That's right.
You demonstrate it in human terms in your novel Atlas Shrugged. And let me start by quoting from a review of this novel Atlas Shrugged that appeared in Newsweek. It said that you are out to destroy almost every edifice in the contemporary American way of life, our Judeo-Christian religion, our modified government-regulated capitalism, our rule by the majority will. Other reviews have said that you scorn churches and the concept of God. Are these accurate criticisms?
Yes, I agree with the facts, but not the estimate of this criticism. Namely, if I am challenging the base of all these institutions, I'm challenging the moral code of altruism, the precept that man's moral duty is to live for others, that man must sacrifice himself to others.
Yeah, I remember 1999 or 2000, no, 1998, I think it was. I was at the University of Arizona, and I got in a philosophical conversation with a very attractive young lady in grad school, which is rare, by the way, in the hard sciences to find attractive young ladies at grad school. And she made the comment to me that altruism is immoral. Or did she say it was immoral, or just say that she didn't believe in it? And I was still a Christian at the time, and I'm going, what is wrong with you? And we didn't talk very long, and so I couldn't fully understand what this grad student was trying to tell me. But I think this grad student was basically parroting the beliefs of Ayn Rand, and she'll talk why altruism is bad.
Which is the present-day morality.
What do you mean by sacrifice himself for others? We're getting to the point.
One moment. Since I'm challenging the base, I necessarily would challenge the institutions, you name it, which are a result of that morality.
All right.
And now what is self-sacrifice?
Yes, what is self-sacrifice? You say that you do not like the altruism by which we live. You like a certain kind of Ayn Randist selfishness.
I would say that I don't like is too weak a word. I consider it evil. And
altruism is evil.
Self-sacrifice is the precept that man needs to serve others in order to justify his existence, that his moral duty is to serve others. That is what most people believe today.
Well, yes, we're taught to feel concerned for our fellow man, to feel responsible for his welfare, to feel that we are, as religious people might put it, children under God and responsible one for the other. Now, why do you rebel? What's wrong with this philosophy?
But that is what, in fact, makes man a sacrificial animal. That man must work for others, concern himself with others, or be responsible for them. That is the role of a sacrificial object. I say that man is entitled to his own happiness and that he must achieve it himself, but that he cannot demand that others give up their lives to make him happy.
Yeah. Can you imagine Ayn Rand and that black lady, that African-American lady, in the same room together? You're not owed anything. You don't deserve anything other than what you do with your own hands. This is the epitome of personal responsibility taken to the extreme.
Nor should he. wish to sacrifice himself for the happiness of others, I hold that man should have self-esteem.
And cannot man have self-esteem?
Yeah. I hold that man should have self-esteem. This is I think, a very strong argument against welfare programs, against universal basic income, that when you just get something to help you, to aid in your survival, your well-being, by doing nothing, you become like a child. You become like a baby who, your mother, your father give you everything. And you just get it, and there's no worries in the world for you. But as you become an adult, and if you just get stuff that you've done nothing yourself to achieve, I think it actually, I actually agree with Ayn Rand here. It makes you into an animal. We are animals, but it makes you into a person with no self-worth. Now, what's my evidence for this? Exhibit A, the Native Americans in both Canada and the United States. If you live on a reservation, you get everything paid for. Your food, your shelter, your clothing, your snowmobiles, your trucks, your cars, whatever you want, the government pays for it. At least that's the way it is in Canada. And I think the United States is the same way, as long as you live on the reservation. And I tell you, the suicide rates, the degree of alcoholics, crime is through the roof. Why? I think it's because of this. Your self-worth just goes down. When basically society is treating you like that infant suckling at the mother's breast. Everything is just given to you.
If he loves his fellow man, what's wrong with loving your fellow man? Christ, every important moral leader in man's history, has taught us that we should love one another. Why then is this kind of love in your mind immoral?
It is immoral if it is a love placed above oneself. It is more than immoral, it's impossible.
She is literally the Antichrist. Well, at least some versions of Jesus. She is preaching a gospel that's almost directly opposed to the lovey-dovey, social, give everything you have to the poor type of Jesus.
Because when you are asked to love everybody indiscriminately, that is, to love people without any standard, to love them regardless of the fact of whether they have any value or virtue, you are asked to love nobody.
I love that. And this is the problem I see with so many communities or groups of people. I'm thinking of the queer community, for example. Not all, and hear me out, there's probably a lot of gay people who watch my channel, maybe the other channel. And probably the ones who watch my channel agree with me. But to say, you need to love me for who I am, it's so repulsive. We ought to love and respect people for what they do, for how they act, for how they behave. People don't deserve respect. People don't deserve love until demonstrated to deserve it. This is probably the toughest pill, I'll say it, for a leftist to swallow. You know how atheists, they want a demonstration of their God existing. I need a tangible demonstration in order for me to believe your God exists. Well, be consistent. You need a tangible demonstration that someone is deserving of love and respect. You just don't give it to people. Now, I'm not saying that you hate people and you cause injury to people. But I think Ayn Rand and myself would say, you don't go out of your way to give them stuff, to love them, to respect them, for just being a human. Now, I think that's what Ayn Rand is saying. How much, I'm probably 95% with her here, but I do think that because we evolved as Homo sapiens, that it's in our genetic code to treat humans differently than, let's say, dogs or dolphins or ants or butterflies. So there's still something in me, and I think in her probably, that still will give a little more respect or love, whatever you want to call it, to animals of her own species. Oh, this sounds so cold to a theist listening right now, right?
Sense in your book, you talk about love as if it were a business deal of some kind.
Oh.
Isn't the essence of love that it is above self-interest?
Well, let me make it concrete for you. What would it mean to have love above self-interest? It would mean, for instance, that a husband would tell his wife, if he were moral, according to the conventional morality, that I am marrying you just for your own sake. I have no personal interest in it, but I am so unselfish that I am marrying you only for your own good.
Well, should husbands and wives
Would any woman like that?
Should husbands and
that's a great point. If a husband said, I'm just marrying you for your own good, I mean, I'm not expecting anything out of this relationship. I mean, I'm doing this for you. It's all about you, loving you, respecting you. I'm not asking for anything to return. I'm self-sacrificial. I do not, I'll say this is not that political. I'm going to bring the religion into this. But I have never believed a Christian who says, I just love Jesus for who he is. I'm going to swear here, okay? So if you don't like swearing, cover your ears. I think that's total bullshit. I don't think there's one Christian on the planet who just loves Jesus for who he is. I think Christians love God, love Jesus for what he has done. For what he has done for them. Atone for their sins, promise them eternal life, make them children of the kingdom, what he has done. And I tell you, if a guy gave me keys to the kingdom, saved my life, I would respect and love that guy too. I just don't think God exists and Jesus did any of those things. So don't tell me, and even in marriages, don't tell me you love your spouse for just being who she is. Now, who someone is a reflection of what they've done. So it's a bit of a semantic game here. But people get married for what they can do for each other. Provide companionship, provide sex, provide help in raising children.
I tally up at the end of the day and say, well, now, wait a minute. I love her if she's done enough for me today, or she loves me if I have properly performed my functions.
No, you misunderstood me. That is not how love should be treated. I agree with you that it should be treated like a business deal, but every business has to have its own terms and its own kind of currency. And in love, the currency is virtue. You love people not for what you do for them or what they do for you. You love them for the values, the virtues, which they have achieved in their own character.
Okay, so I'm wrong. She's saying you love them for their virtues and values, but how is that different than doing? Like a virtue is impotent. It's irrelevant if it doesn't translate to an action, right?
You don't love causelessly. You don't love everybody indiscriminately. You love only those who deserve it.
And then if a man is weak or a woman is weak,
you love only those who deserve it. Like, how many people today can take this type of medicine? I will only love you if you deserve it. Like, what percentage of the American populace would say, "Oh, that sounds terrible," and what percentage would say, "Yeah, that sounds great"?
He is beyond love.
He certainly does not deserve it. He certainly is beyond. He can always correct it. Man has free will. If a man wants love, he should correct his weaknesses or his flaws, and he may deserve it. But he cannot expect the unearned, neither in love nor in money,
But you
neither
have-
in matter nor spirit.
You have lived in our world and you recognize the fallibility of human beings. There are very few of us then in this world, by your standards, who are worthy of love.
Unfortunately, yes, very few. But it is open to everybody to make themselves worthy of it, and that is all that my morality offers them.
If they will
A
conduct-
way to make themselves worthy of love, although that's not the primary motive.
Let's move ahead. How does your philosophy translate itself into the world of politics? Now, one of the principal...
Before we get into the politics part, I would love to, if Mike Wallace would have asked her, well, if we should love people based on virtue, give a specific example, and I think it would translate to action, at least 95% of the time. So I think she kind of contradicted herself there a little bit.
Achievements of this country in the past 20 years particularly, I think most people agree, is the gradual growth of social protective legislation based on the principle that we are our brother's keepers. How do you feel about the political trends of the United States, the Western world?
The way everybody feels, except more consciously. I feel that it is terrible, that you see destruction all around you, and that you are moving toward disaster until and unless all those welfare state conceptions have been reversed and rejected. It is precisely these trends which are bringing the world to disaster, because we are now moving towards complete collectivism or socialism, a system under which everybody is enslaved to everybody. And we are moving that way only because of our altruist morality.
Yes, but you say everybody is enslaved.
Yeah, she calls it altruism morality. I call it feel sorry forism. But she's this was taken, what, 50 years ago? United States is probably still among the Western nations, has a greater percentage of what we would call capitalistic leanings. And we haven't been destroyed yet.
To everybody, yet this came about democratically.
Virtue manifests in actions. Yes, of course, that's what I said. But then she said that love is not deserved based on what you do, it's based on virtues. But virtues are manifested in what you do. So that's why I'm saying there's a bit of a contradiction that she made there.
And the free people in a free country voted for this kind of government, wanted this kind of legislation. Do you object to the democratic process?
I object to the idea that people have the right to vote on everything. The traditional American system was a system based on the idea that majority will prevailed only in public or political affairs, and that it was limited.
Yeah, I agree with her here. I don't think that everybody has the right to vote on everything. And even the Constitution says that you got to be at least 18 years old. But can you imagine people voting on stuff that they have no idea what they're voting on? Can you imagine someone not understanding a thing, going into a ballot box and just checking boxes at random? For those leftists out there who want to make it incredibly easy for everyone to vote, like, would you at least grant me that that's not good? For people just to vote at random and not understand a thing what they're voting for? That's not good. But I'm curious to see where she's going to go with this. Is she going to say that only people with invested interests, like own property, should be able to vote?
Individual rights. Therefore, I do not believe that a majority can vote a man's life or property or freedom away from him. Therefore, I do not believe that if a majority votes on any issue, that this makes the issue right. It doesn't.
All right. Then how do we arrive at action? How should we arrive at action?
By voluntary consent, voluntary cooperation of free men, unforced.
And how do our leaders arrive? How do we arrive at our leadership? Who elects? Who appoints?
The whole people elects. There is nothing wrong with the democratic process in politics. We arrive at it the way we arrived by the American Constitution as it used to be, by the constitutional process as we had it. People elect officials, but the powers of those officials, the powers of government are strictly limited. They will have no right to initiate force or compulsion against any citizen.
Yeah, I think I know where this is going. This is going to taxation. Taxation is one of those things where you're forcing people to pay money to the government by threat of jail time if you don't.
Except a criminal. Those who have initiated force will be punished by force, and that is the only proper function of government. What we would not permit...
The only proper function of government is basically the judicial branch.
...is the government to initiate force against people who have hurt no one, who have not forced anyone. We would not give the government or the majority or any minority the right to take the life or the property of others. That was the original American system.
When you say take the property of others, I imagine that you're talking now about taxes.
Yes, I am.
And you believe that there should be no right by the government to tax. You believe that there should be no such thing as welfare legislation, unemployment compensation, regulation during times of stress, certain kinds of rent controls and things like that.
That's right. I'm opposed to all forms of control. I am for an absolute, laissez-faire, free, unregulated economy. Let me put it briefly. I'm for the separation of state and economics, just as we had...
Yeah, I would love to talk to her. She's dead now, right? I would love to give her the argument about people robbing her at night. Would she just beef up her security and guards? And if people make mistakes in life and they end up being poor or born in a poor situation and they're desperate for survival, and people don't choose not to give to them because they don't deserve it, what do you do now? Isn't this a good argument for welfare programs as protection money for yourself?
State and church, which led to peaceful coexistence among different religions after a period of religious wars. So the same applies to economics. If you separate the government from economics, if you do not regulate production and trade, you will have peaceful cooperation and harmony and justice among men.
Yeah, who's going to make the money? These are questions I have. She's saying no Federal Reserve, no printing, like go back to bartering system? Don't we need some type of centralized government to have some type of monetary system?
You are certainly enough of a political scientist to know that certain movements spring up in reaction to other movements. The labor movement, for instance, certain social welfare legislation. This did not spring full-blown from somebody's head, out of a vacuum. This was a reaction to certain abuses that were going on. Isn't that true, Ayn?
Not always. It actually sprang up from the same source as the abuses. If by abuses you mean the legislation, which originally had been established to help industrialists, which was already a breach of complete free enterprise. If then, in reaction, labor leaders get together to initiate legislation to help labor, that is only acting on the same principle, namely, all parties agreeing that it is proper for the state to legislate in favor of one economic group or another. But what I'm saying is that nobody should have the right, neither employers nor employees, to use state compulsion and force.
But when you advocate completely unregulated economic life in which every man works for his own profit, you are asking, in a sense, for a devil-take-the-hindmost, dog-eat-dog society, and one of the main reasons for the growth of government controls was to fight the robber barons, to fight laissez-faire, in which the very people whom you admire the most,
This is so cool to watch. I mean, you'll never, ever find an interviewer nowadays smoking a cigarette while interviewing.
the hard-headed industrialists, the successful men, perverted the use of their power. Is that not true?
No, it isn't.
Oh.
This country was made not by robber barons, but by independent men, by industrialists who succeeded on sheer ability.
And
Who
having,
suc-
of
by
course they
ability,
succeeded.
I mean without political force, help, or compulsion. But
What about killing all the Native Americans? Using guns by Great Britain, cannons by Great Britain, ships by Great Britain.
at the same time, there were men, industrialists, who did use government power as a club to help them against competitors. They were the original collectivists. Today, the liberals believe that that same compulsion should be used against the industrialists for the sake of workers. But the basic principle there is, should there be any compulsion? And the regulations are creating robber barons. They are creating capitalists with government help, which is the worst of all economic phenomena.
I think that you will
crony capitalism.
agree with me when I say that you do not have a good deal of respect for the society in which you and I currently live. You think that we're going downhill fairly fast. Now, I would like you to think about this question, and you'll have a minute intermission to ponder it, and then come back and answer it. Do you predict dictatorship and economic disaster for the United States if we continue on our present course?
Do you predict dictatorship? She's probably going to give an answer that the leftists, the liberals, the Democrats are going to agree with. Yeah, we're heading to dictatorship. Yeah, a leftist so far is disagreeing with almost everything she's saying. But if she answers yes, we're heading to dictatorship, then they're going to start agreeing.
Do you? And we'll get Ayn Rand's answer in just a moment. Fully predict dictatorship and economic disaster for the United States?
If the present collectivist trend continues, if the present anti-reason philosophy continues, yes, that is the way the country is going. But I do not believe in historical determinism, and I do not believe that people have to go that way. Men have the free will to choose and to think. If they change their thinking, we do not have to go into dictatorship.
Yes, but how can you expect to reverse this trend when, as we've said, the country is run by majority rule through ballot, and that majority seems to prefer to vote for this modified welfare state?
Oh, I don't believe that. You know as well as I do that the majority today has no choice.
What do you mean?
The majority has never been offered a choice between controls and freedom.
How do you account for the fact that an almost overwhelming majority of the people...
They haven't been given a choice. Is that true? Like there's some far right libertarian type politicians, right, who run. There's a choice, but they just don't even get 1% of the vote.
People who are regarded as our leading intellectuals and our leading industrialists, the men whom you seem to admire the most, the men with the muscle and the money, favor the modified capitalism that we have today.
Because it is an intellectual issue. Since they all believe in collectivism, they do favor it. But the majority of the people has never been given a choice. You know that both parties today are for socialism, in effect, for controls, and there is no party.
That's true.
There are no votes.
The biggest form of Republican socialism is the U.S. military.
Voices to offer an actual pro-capitalist, let's say fair, economic freedom and individualism. That is what this country needs today.
Isn't it possible that we all believe in it because we are all basically lonely people and we all understand that we are basically our brother's keepers?
You couldn't say that you really understand it because there is no way in which you could justify it. Nobody has ever given a reason why men should be their brother's keepers, and you've had every example. And
give me a reason why I should be my brother's keeper. Well, the Christian would say, because God said so. Muslim would say the same. Jews would say the same. What do the Hindus say? A guy like me, an atheist, would say, why should I be my brother's keeper? Because I don't want my brother to rob me at night. If they're starving, they're going to come into my home and use force to take my stuff. I don't want that.
You see the examples around you of men perishing by the attempt to be their brother's keepers.
You have no faith in anything.
Faith?
Only
No.
in your mind.
That is not faith. That is a conviction. Yes, I have no faith
Conviction.
at all. I only hold convictions.
Who are you, Ayn Rand? When I say that, I would like to know just a little bit of your vital statistics. You have an accent which is...
Russian.
Russian. You were born in Russia?
Yes.
Came here?
Oh, about 30 years ago.
And whence did this philosophy of yours come?
Out of my own mind, with the sole acknowledgement of a debt to Aristotle, who is the only philosopher that ever influenced me. I devised the rest of my philosophy myself.
Yeah, for me it was Dr. Seuss. He influenced me a lot.
Your parents, did they die in Russia or did they come here to the United States?
No, I came here alone, and I don't know. I have no way of finding out whether they died or not.
You are married?
Yes.
Your husband, is he an industrialist?
No, he's an artist. His name is Frank O'Connor.
And he, not the writer?
Paints.
He
No,
paints.
not the writer.
And does he live from his painting?
He's just beginning to study painting. He
I
was
see.
a designer before.
Is he supported in his efforts by the state?
Most certainly not.
He's supported by you for the time being?
No, by his own work, actually, in the past.
Well, I know.
By me, if necessary, but that isn't quite necessary.
And there is no...
I love what Mike Wallace is doing here. He's saying, your husband's an artist. Who pays for his food? Is it you?
There is no contradiction here in that you help him.
No, because you see, I am in love with him selfishly. It is to my own interest to help him if he ever needed it.
Pine Creek, so you agree with no justice, no peace slogan? No. Well, to me, it's not necessarily about justice, because one could say that some people deserve to starve. One could say that. When I'm giving a practical, a very pragmatic answer to socialism, or why some welfare benefits are needed. It's purely pragmatics. It's that people will get very ornery when they feel like, for either wrong or right reasons, that they deserve something and they don't have it. And then if they don't have it, they might go kill to get it. And so I actually do view maybe welfare as a necessary evil to assuage people's behavior so they don't do terrible things. A very moral poor person, they would have to just be at the mercy of the largesse or of people to give them stuff. They ask nicely, please help, and if nobody helps them, they die if there's no welfare system.
I would not call that a sacrifice because I take selfish pleasure in it.
Let me put one specific case to you. Suppose under your system of self-sufficiency, one single corporation were to get a stranglehold on a vital product or a raw material, uranium, for instance.
Microsoft.
Which might be vital for the national defense, and then would refuse to sell it to the government. Then what?
Under a free system, no one could acquire a monopoly on anything. If you look at economics and economic history, you will discover that all monopolies have been established with government help, with the help of franchises, subsidies.
How about a selfish case for welfare, like I want the safety net in case I ever need it? Yeah, I understand that. But if you look at statistics, history, there's this thing called cyclic poverty. There's slogans like the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. the chances of me ever needing to tap into a welfare program is very close to zero. So even though I acknowledge what you're saying, if I ever get into a situation where I'm in huge need, I still have A, family, B, friends, and then C, government. Like, there's a hierarchy there for me personally if I was ever to get into need. And I think that's a good hierarchy. I think that is a good system. You're dependent on your immediate family first, extended family second, maybe even your immediate community, your neighbors third, friends. Government should be maybe the last place you go for help. And I think there's benefits to that too, because there's accountability, right? Let's say I say, hey, neighbor, buddy, I need $10,000. I mean, big problems. I need $10,000. And my neighbor can afford it and says, okay, here's $10,000 to get you out of this hole. And then my neighbor sees me going to the bar, doing cocaine, buying, entertainment. There's accountability there, immediate accountability. Government is not keeping their eyes on you like my neighbor can. So it's a very efficient system. Now, the downside to it is there's a lot more embarrassment, shame, and guilt when you have to ask your family or friends or neighbors for money, which you don't have when you ask the government.
Or any kind of government privileges. In free competition, no one could corner the market on a needed product.
Let's say there is a deposit.
History will support me.
There is a deposit of uranium in Nevada. It's the only one in the United States, and it's our only access to that. And for self-defense, we need this.
There's a ton of it in Saskatchewan. Did you say uranium? Oh, I'm thinking of potash. Uranium. There's uranium in Canada.
As, let's say, in the Soviet Union, the state is able to command that. And a kind of a strange man of strange beliefs got hold of this uranium and said, I will not sell this uranium to my government. He should not be able to be forced by the government, according to your philosophy, to sell that uranium.
But you realize that you are setting up an impossible fantasy. That is, if you're talking of any natural resource that is vitally needed, it could not become vitally needed if it were that scarce. Not scarce to the point where one man could control all of it. So long as, I'm using your example, if a natural resource exists in more than one place in the world, no one man is going to control it.
That's not necessarily true. But yeah, she's kind of avoiding the hypothetical question here. You can set up any hypothetical where the planet needs X, only one man owns this as personal property X, and without X, everybody dies. Except for the man, I guess. What do you do? Under her system, everybody dies. Especially if the man is crazy and just says, hey, I don't care if everybody dies.
All right, let's take another. How do we build roads, sanitation facilities, hospitals, schools? If the government is not permitted to force, if you will, by vote, taxation, use your word, we have to depend upon the trickle-down theory, upon the noblesse oblige, the largesse.
I will answer you by asking you a question. Who pays for all those things?
All of us pay for these things.
When you admit that you want to take money by force from someone and ask me, how are we going to build hospitals?
See, I disagree with her here. I've talked to some far-right libertarians before. There's no one stopping you from leaving the country and going to some other country to live the way you want to live. So there's implied contract for every U.S. citizen that they're kind of okay with this idea of taxation by force. Because you're not There's no one sticking a gun to your head and say, stay here in the United States and work here and pay your taxes. You're free to leave the United States. If you can find a country like Bermuda, what's some other tax haven type country? If you can find work in a country where there's zero taxes, go there.
Roads, you admit that someone is producing the money, the wealth that will make those roads possible. Now you have no right to tell the man who produced the wealth in what way you want him to spend it. If you need his money, you can obtain it only by his voluntary consent.
And you believe?
Yeah, I remember I did a live stream with Nathan several months ago now, I guess, saying that if you tax producers too much, you actually hurt tax revenues coming in the future. And this is something a lot of people, a lot of liberals on the left, some leftists, some don't like to hear, that you can actually do more harm than good by taxing producers. Like really people who are really good at innovation, at production, taking money that they've made, reinvesting and making even more money. And I did an Excel spreadsheet with Nathan, and Nathan really pushed back hard because he wanted to keep on adding more variables until the conclusion was false, I think. But yeah, very simply, $1,000, if you're making 20% return, you can make more return on $1,000 than $800 if you're taxed 20%. So you're actually almost better off letting really productive people keep their money as long as they keep being productive, creating jobs, creating new goods and new services. But leftists hate to hear this. I mean, no, that's wrong. I mean, it's immoral not to take their money. In fact, I remember being called into my church's office one time, and we were brainstorming ideas on how the church could make more revenue. True story. I was pretty close friends with my pastor and another guy. And my friend said, you should not ask producers in the church to tithe more. You should say tithe less, but then promise us that when you die, you'll leave the majority of your estate to the church. And I think my friend was exactly right. It's a long-term perspective. But if a church, and I'll say even if a country wants, if they're thinking long-term, if they want to maximize tax revenues to the treasury, you tax the productive people. And this, I'm going to bother leftists here. There are 5 to 10% of the population that are really good at making money. They're better than you people. You people. And you ought to leave them alone and let them do their thing. They're like like in beehives. You got the queen, you got the workers, there's some workers out there who are really good at it. Really good. They're better than you. Leave them alone. Let them do their job, and then just, instead of having maybe an income tax on them, just have a huge estate tax.
Believe in the eventual goodwill of all human beings, or at least that top echelon of human beings whom you believe will give willingly.
No goodwill is necessary, only self-interest. I believe in private roads, private post offices, private schools.
When industry breaks down momentarily and there is unemployment, mass unemployment, we should not be permitted to get unemployment insurance. Social security we do not need. Will depend upon the self-interest of these enlightened industrialists whom you so admire to take care of things when the economy needs a little lubrication and there are millions of people out of work.
Study economics. A free economy will not break down. All depressions are caused by government interference.
All it's a bad transcription there. But she said all depressions are caused by government interference. I tend to agree with her here. The one exception might be the dirty 30s, and that was a famine, right? But you look back, well, what happened in early 2020, COVID, was that government interference? Well, Wuhan, not our government, but what happened afterwards, after 2020, with the huge influx of money supply, PP loans, all this influx of money is causing the inflation we see today, which hurts the average person. 2008, one could argue that the real estate collapse was due to a bubble created by the Federal Reserve and certain programs the government put in place. So everybody, because we feel sorry for people, everybody deserves a home. Everybody deserves a home. So let's make it so easy for everybody to get a home. You've seen the movie The Big Short, right? You know, those loans where you didn't have show proof of income or anything, where minorities were targeted the most. Let's put everybody in a home. It's such a great thing. Everybody have a home. One could say that was caused by government intervention. 2000, the dot-com crash. There was a ton of money pumped into the system by the Federal Reserve because of the Y2K scare. Some of you are too young to remember all this. That caused a bubble in the tech market. It caused a crash and a recession. That's my lifetime. I'm not old enough to go back further than that. But I would say that Ayn Rand is right here. That government intervention has caused these huge swings in the business cycle.
And the cure is always offered so far to take more of the poisons that caused the disaster. Depressions are not a result of a free economy.
And one last question. We only have about a
half. I think the depression of the dirty 30s is maybe an exception. Because the Federal Reserve wasn't even, was it created? And did they put money into the system? I don't think so. Maybe there was some banking thing that happened there too. Like, where did all the money come from in the late 20s to pump up the stock market? Wasn't it from the end of World War I? But then she would say that was government intervention creating these wars. I don't know what she would say.
A minute. How many Randists, you don't like the word, I beg your pardon.
Objectivists.
How many objectivists would you say there are in the United States?
It's hard to estimate.
Thanks, Brojo.
But I can tell you some figures. My best intellectual heir, Nathaniel Brandon, a young psychologist, is giving a series of lectures on my philosophy in New York. He has received 600 letters of inquiry within the month of January. He's giving these lectures, and the attendance is growing in geometrical proportion.
Ayn, I'm sure that you have stimulated a good many people.
Okay, that looks like that's the end. Okay, so if you came late, I talked about the deficit and how the interest rates have set records. From what I've been keeping track of, more interest is being paid than I've ever seen before. That's because interest rates are going up and the debt's going up. The budget deficit is 1 trillion over what's 1.1 trillion for 6 months. This is not good. Not good at all. Unless you're a Keynesian and then you say, oh, it doesn't matter. And then we talked about taxation. Who actually pays the taxes in this country? It's the top 10% of wage earners who pay most of the taxes. Is that fair? Talked about that. How fair? Should they pay all the taxes? Pay for everything? And so I proposed a solution. The solution is a general sales tax. If you can't take away social programs because people start to cry and cause violence because it's like their purple pacifier. If you came late, I talked about my daughter's purple pacifier. The solution, if you can't cut government spending, the only solution I think is a general sales tax. General sales tax of 5-7% in there somewhere on everything bought or sold in the United States, taxed by the government. Tax based on not income, but on consumption. If you don't want to pay the tax, don't buy anything. That's going to cause problems. It'll change the economy from a consumption economy to a savings economy. When you change the economy into a savings one from a consumption one, there'll be some short-term pain, but in the long term, the need for government will dissipate because now you're saving. You don't want to pay huge prices for TVs, cars, houses. You'll be saving your money. And so when hard times come, you tap into your own reserves instead of government welfare. And then we start talking about victimhood. Once you're on welfare, it's very easy to become a victim, to think you're a victim, to demand that the welfare continue or increase. And it causes a decrease in self-worth, in my opinion. We talked about Native Americans as an example. And one could say certain parts of the African American culture in the United States, that this is maybe a good reason why welfare should be as low as possible. And then we listened to her about objectivism and that altruism is bad, which I'd say I agree with the majority of what she said. I don't know how high. But I do think there's a reason why the United States has the biggest economy on the planet. There's a reason for it. There's a reason why many people from third world countries want to live here. It's because of its freedom and because I think there is a balance between these welfare programs and capitalism and its, what would you guys say, 60-40? Lean capitalist to socialist, 70-30? Whereas most countries in Europe, Western type countries, they're probably flipped, 60-40 the other direction, 60 more social benefits. Natural resources are meaningless unless you can tap into them and sell them and use them and transport them. And the United States has been able to do that. If you want to look at natural resources, Canada should be the wealthiest country on the planet. I mean, even Mexico. I tell you, Mexico is screwed up. Ugh. Another way we can get rid of the debt, the national debt in the United States, is United States should go by force, take over Mexico, fix it up, and then flip it and sell it to Canada. Sell it to California, at least. That's a joke. Relax. I don't condone war in my administration. Yeah, I'm trying to just keep it simple, Midnight Rambler. Does anybody want to come in and talk to me? But I'll stand by what I said. I think the best reason for welfare programs is because of the immorality in humans. The best reason for welfare is because of the immorality of humans. And you can view this in two ways. You can say that if you're a leftist, you can say, yeah, Doug, I agree with you because some people just don't give to the people who are needy. So we got to get the government, we got to force them to give through the government. Another way to look at it from the right point of view is, yeah, some people are just lazy, terrible. They think they have this deserve attitude. And so if they don't get what they think they deserve, they're going to come steal from you. And so we got to pay them off. Ayn Rand, born Alyssa Rosenbaum. Beware of the name changers. It's probably because of her acting career, right? She wanted to be an actress, I think. If someone wants to come in and talk to me, tag me. Let's pull a Ukraine with Mexico. Yeah, there we go. I tell you, Mexico is a great country, but it's a fixer-upper. In my opinion, Roman Catholicism is the reason for its problems. Am I right? If we were to take GDP by religion, I would say, of Western countries, not dictatorships, of democratic Western type nations, I think Protestant countries have a higher average GDP than Catholic. If I had the time and if I didn't want to bore you guys, I would look that up right now and do the analysis. But someone can do that for me and get back to me. Maybe someone, I'm sure someone's already done it. Maybe I should open up Chat GPT. And I think the reason why Roman Catholics, if I'm right, lag behind Protestant nations is because this whole idea of less freedom, that you need government, you need priests, you need people to tell you what to do. They know how to run your life better than you know how to run your own. Whereas Protestants are less like that. Max Weber explains that correlation pretty well. Oh, so what was the conclusion, Rosemary? Am I right? By the way, I think the highest GDP per capita. Do I ever get recognized in public? No. But the highest GDP per capita, I believe, are in the top 3. Someone can fact check me on this. The top 3 are in countries with no taxation, which Ayn Rand would probably salivate if she knew today. They're all tax haven countries like Bermuda. Oh, I forget where they are. I know Bermuda is one of them. Calvinism affected how capitalism developed. Huh. Protestant work ethic is a real thing. Yeah, that's the part of Protestantism I agree with. I think it's totally okay to make people feel bad when they don't work as hard as someone else. I think that's good. It's good to make people feel bad for not working as hard as them. Call me crazy. Luxembourg, yeah. I think Luxembourg is a pretty low tax nation. Switzerland, I'm not sure about Switzerland. Norway, yeah, Norway has a ton of oil too, right? Yeah, oil nations kind of screw it up. But I think even like Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, Dubai, those places have a high GDP per capita, but it's mostly because of oil. Work smart, not hard. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, that's true. You can be a hard worker at McDonald's. And I respect that. In fact, I really respect that. Let me give some hope to the kids out there. The reason why a lot of young people lean left is because it's hard for them to imagine that someday that their goals will be met. Some kids can see that and kind of have, for a better word, faith in themselves. But I remember feeling the exact same way in my early 20s, thinking, this is ridiculous. I'm working my butt off for what? I mean, is there any hope I'm going to make some money someday? And then I remember I was renting a room before I got married. I was renting a room from a high school teacher. And she said to me, don't worry, Doug. Someday you'll have your career, you'll have your money, you'll have your family, and everything's going to be all right. And she was right. But she said, you still got to do your part. You got to work hard. And I do think it's tougher for kids today than it was for me back then, because because I agree with Ayn Rand, because of government intervention. I mean, it's so expensive now because of inflation, housing. There is no social contract. Contracts are only valid if entered voluntarily. A social contract is imposed on an individual at birth, therefore invalid. Yeah, but when you become an adult, like this would be my argument against Ayn Rand about taxation. If you're a citizen of the United States and you don't like to be taxed by force, then leave. Go to Luxembourg. Go to the Bermuda Islands. I leaned left when I was younger, and you're right, Doug. Yeah. Hey, Nathan. Government rent controls in London would stop the robbing landlords taking my salary. Yeah, but then that becomes, in my opinion, a slippery slope. Once you start regulating price, like if the government starts regulating price, the demand will go up, supply will go down, and it feeds upon itself. I think we have the data on that price controls don't work. Leaving is an invalid argument. Why? Because people can't afford to leave? Is that what you're saying? Oh, you're the exception, Glenn Royer. Like if you just look at exit polls from different elections, young people vote left way more than older folks. And you hear people saying, oh, just wait long enough and you'll see, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years from now, the older folks are going to be Democrats. No, you can go back in time and see that sloping curve down. It doesn't, like if you've got a bunch of Democrats under the age of 25, you don't have them at 50. They convert. They deconvert. However you want to put it. Per your own experience, it's hard to immigrate, right? Yeah, it is hard to emigrate, however you want to put it. But anything worth doing is hard. But I bet deconversions are associated with becoming more progressive. Are we talking religion now, or are we talking economics? If you're over 50 and you had to bet, does this person over 50 lean right or lean left? You would bet lean right if you want to make money. If you got an 18-year-old and you had to bet in the United States, do they lean left or right? You would bet lean left. That's all I'm saying. But what I'm also saying is that same 18-year-old that leans left, the probability is that by the time they reach 50, they'll lean right. It might be very small, but yeah, my dad said I would get more conservative and it annoyed me, but he was right. People also become more religious as they get older, except in recent times. Yeah, because of fear of death, probably. Northwest backcountry, you must be a libertarian. Why do I have to leave? Does the government have more of a right to be here than me? Because they have bigger guns, Northwest backcountry. Do I have to spell it out to you? Because if you fight this, you will die. And you're not stupid. You don't want to die, right? Let me tell it to you like you're a 5-year-old. You have no power. You're in a country where the majority has said that taxation is okay. And if you don't like it, you got 2 options. Pay your taxes or leave the country. It's as simple as that. Or go to jail. At some point, you got to use your brain and just accept the things you can't control. Can I get an amen from leftists? I speculate that when a Christian leaves their religion, they become open in other areas like politics, which may lead the starting point for becoming. Yeah, I've seen that, definitely. It didn't happen to me. Yeah, and truth be told, older people have more money, and it makes more sense to be more conservative. Yeah. Basically, young people are asking old people to give them some of their money. That's what taxation is. So that makes sense that people with money would lean right. Although I've done a study on a previous live stream where I looked at all the taxation codes since the 1960s, and it really didn't change much. The big change was with Reagan from Carter. Went from the top tier went from 70 to 50. But even under Reagan, for the first half of his first tenure, he kept it at 70, and he finally got it down to 50. Like, a lot of people think of Reagan as this huge tax cutting guy, which he was, but compared to today, Reagan had much higher tax rates. And I've said this for the record, I'd be willing to go back to 70% tax rates as a conservative, right-leaning capitalist on one condition. We go back to the welfare programs of the 60s. And I bet you, see, this is me, olive branch of compromise, but I bet you there's very few Democrats who would take me up on it. They would think, oh, this social program would then leave because that came out in the 80s. This social program would leave because that came out last year. Don't you care about the children, Doug? That's what they're going to say. But I think a better way, instead of going to 70% tax rates, is what I proposed earlier. Go to a 7% GST, general sales tax. Punish consumption. That way, guys like Nathan here, if he saves his nickels, he won't pay taxes. Like he earns money, stays at his home in his closet, and produces live streams when he's bored, and then he can save money easier. What, if any, taxes would you lower or eliminate if you could? I think they're pretty, to be honest, if we don't have a GST, they're pretty fine where they're at right now. I feel a little icky about estate taxes, but I understand why they're there and why it's maybe the best tax for the reasons I gave earlier. What would you do with the extra revenue if we rolled back those programs? I would pay down the debt and try to become more like Norway. Could you imagine if instead of having a $20 trillion debt, we had like trillions in cash for a rainy day? Earning interest. Woof. Can you imagine if the government didn't need to sell bonds and pay interest out? Right now in the US, that'd be $65 billion extra per month in interest payments that no longer need to go out. You know how many poor people that $65 billion could feed? And right now it's paying interest on bonds. Interest is probably the worst thing to spend your money on. I have a few rules I've had in my life, and that's never borrow money for depreciating assets like cars. Always paid cash for cars. And any major stuff like furniture. People like finance furniture. That's the stupidest thing to do. If you can't afford furniture to pay cash, then don't buy furniture. My goodness. Buy a rug and sit on the floor. If you're the type of person who finances everything, unless you're getting 0% interest, but then again, there's something else going on there. You're probably paying too much and they're making the money on the front end or the back end. You should never, if you make $100,000 a year, don't spend more than $20,000 on a car. If you make $50,000 a year, don't spend more than $10,000 on a car. 20% max. If you make $100,000 a year, don't take out more than a $200,000 mortgage. There's some quick and easy rules of thumb. In other words, if you want joy and happiness in your life, take that feeling of desire and push it down deep until it disappears. If you want to save money and not be dependent on others, take all the joy you desire in your life and crush it. All the desire you want and crush it. Make it a game. How sad can you get? I laugh because if you actually have this mentality, it will help you. The thing is, you can get so much joy and happiness on things that are free, like taking a walk and just looking, going out in the countryside, breathing fresh air. $300,000 mortgage gets you one bed studio. Oh, that's crazy. Then don't buy a studio. Live in a homeless shelter. Mooch off your parents. At some point, if everybody did that, the prices have to come down. But maybe not. Maybe this is the problem with companies like Blackstone. By the way, this is why I don't think prices will come down of real estate, because people are paying cash and just buying up properties. But they have to get a return. So eventually they have to lower the rents if nobody's renting. Where can I buy a $200,000? No, I said a mortgage at $200,000, Nick. Hello? Is this on? So if you have $100,000 saved up, you could buy a $300,000 house with $100,000 income. But where? North Dakota, South Dakota. You can buy houses for that. But it's too cold there. Oh, poor baby. When I was your age, I was walking to school knee-high, deep in snow, walking 9 miles uphill both ways. We have not been building houses to keep up with the population. That's a shortage. Well, yeah, true. That's another problem. People are having kids they can't afford. In the United States, you should be making at least medium income in order to have one child. So what is that? $65,000 a year household income. You have my blessing to have one child. But if you live in California and New York, then you should double that. And then you got economies of scale. If you want 2 kids, you should be making about $100,000 a year. 3 kids, you should be making about $140,000 a year. 4 kids, $160,000 a year. And then double that if you live in the UK. So if you want 4 kids, don't learn the code. Learn to weld. AI is going to take this. AI will make its own code. Become welders. Become diaper changers. There's a guaranteed job. Change old people's diapers. That's really hard for a robot to do. I've tried it. The robot always keeps pinching me. Yeah, if you make $65,000 a year, you should buy a $13,000 car or less. And well, here's the problem, Christopher. If you're making $65,000 a year, oh, he erased it. What are we advocating for today? Guns for teachers? No. No children for the poor? Yes, that we're advocating for. I mean, we're advocating morality. If you want to be a moral person, you want the best for your kids, the most options. So you don't have a kid that you can't give the best for them. Yeah, true enough, digital gnosis. I actually think that the whole AI thing's overhyped. Like, let me show you here. Where did I put that? I made something with AI. I tried to make a Margot Robbie lookalike using AI. And then I tried to clone her voice, but I didn't finish it. Let's see if I can find it. And it was terrible. Well, it was kind of cool. I shouldn't say terrible.
No, it's like.
Where is it? AI has a long way to go before I'll be scared.
You are.
Yeah. Prepare to be freaked out, creepy.
In heaven during the days of Noah. God asks your opinion on whether he should drown all people other than Noah's family or painlessly poof them out of existence. Both options are moral because God is giving them. What do you say? Poof or drown? You are in heaven during the days of...
So basically, I told an AI program to make a picture that looks like Margot Robbie. Is it Margot? Yeah. Not bad, right? It's not exact, but... Oh, and then I did one for my daughter. Oh yeah, this one is kind of cool. I took my daughter to see Taylor Swift. And so I made... where is it? I made Taylor Swift thanking her for coming. Don't tell me I got rid of it. Is this it?
A very good question. I try.
No, I don't know. Can't find it right now. Doug, you never should have shown us this. What do you think the law should be about deepfakes, like deepfake porn, for example? I don't know. Because, like what I just showed you with Margot Robbie, it's obvious it's not her, right? So then is it bad? If it's too good, then it becomes bad. So at what point is it obvious that it's not the real person? And at what point, well, that the fact you're just trying to make it look like the real person, and if it looks exactly like the real person, you could make a law that that's illegal, and then the person can sue. I think in the very near future, doctors and scientists will be able to feed an AI tons of info about disease and put it out to some sort of remedy. Well, yeah, that's definitely coming. Like, people think doctors are amazing people. They're not. They make mistakes. And an AI can actually take symptoms and put it, it doesn't have to be AI, just algorithms that can give certain results faster than humans can think of. By the way, when I remember when I had that head problem, lightheadedness, headaches, and all that, I put it out there into the ether, and someone said, "Why don't you try this?" My mother or something had the same problems. Nathan's going to hate this, but and then I took that, started taking it. Within a week, it was like almost all gone. 2 weeks, definitely all gone. I kept taking it. Then I stopped taking it after about a month or two to see what would happen. Sure enough, the headaches came back. The high blood pressure, everything came back. Started taking it again, went away. Then I weaned myself off again, and then it stayed away. But once in a while, it'll come back. I just take a couple of those pills, and it goes away. I've been testing this. And just like a AI would come up with different solutions and based on symptoms, humans can do the same thing if you have a big enough population. Like, here's a good question for those people who say follow the science. You have an illness. Your choices are to go to 3 doctors, or guaranteed that 3 billion people around the world will see, hear all your symptoms, and provide a diagnosis for you that you can then sort through and find the highest rankings and the most whatever, and then ask who. It'd be a great test to run. Let's say the 3 billion are all non-doctors, but they're people who have either had the illness themselves and whatever. I'd wager that the 3 billion non-doctors could, you need a computer to go through all the data, but once you sort it, could get to the correct answer before the 3 doctors. It's just sheer numbers. It's like an AI. What's smack? It's like that show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Phone a friend. No, poll the audience. When there's trivia questions, usually the audience, who are not experts in whatever's being talked about, get the correct answer if it's a big enough sample size. Sure, there can be some really esoteric things that only a few people in the world would know about, but fentanyl's pretty safe. That's what I've heard. Can I call in for a minute? My internet is trash, but it might sort of work with a massive delay. No. I don't want to struggle with a massive delay internet. People hate you if you do that. People will not love you if you do that. You do not deserve any love. You do not deserve any respect if your internet's lagging. get high on stream one time. Maybe when I'm 75. I like to stay in control, Nathan. You know that. And drugs do the opposite of that. AI should solve climate change. Why do you want it solved? Maybe it's good. Ooh. AI can't solve the problem of getting you laid. Hey, Nathan, are you still dating, how come I can't remember her name? B? V. You still marrying? You still dating V? You don't have to answer that. But if you don't answer, I'm going to assume no. Five more minutes, so you got questions for me. If you want to try to stump me, if you want to try to change my mind about anything. Oh, we split up. That's sad. That's sad. Let me, I feel like I need to do something. Nathan, I'm really sorry that you and V split up. But maybe it's for the best. Nathan, there's plenty of fish in the sea. You'll be okay. You'll be just fine. You know about Alex Epstein? You should do one of his videos. Is that the pedophile? No, that's a different Epstein. Sorry. Sorry, Alex. I've been seeing a Muslim girl. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. She sounds like a great kisser. Just say her name when you kiss her. Alhamdulillah. Is that racist? Am I being racist right now? It's okay. She only did it via text after 3 points. V broke up with you via text? Whoa. That is harsh. 3.5 years and breaking up via text. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. If I was to break up with you, Nathan, I would do it face to face. I would just look you right in the eyes and say, you're not deserving of my love. Do you think funding is needed to help people become more personally responsible, or will it happen without that? Do you think funding is needed to help people? Oh, you're basically hinting at education, right? Once people become more educated, especially on financial stuff, they will be more independent. Yeah, I do think funding is needed for that. But it doesn't necessarily have to be government funding, so gotcha. The benefits of fossil fuels massively outweigh the costs. I think you'd like it. Oh. Harsh. You say sorry. Say sorry, Laren Mobile. Say sorry. Have you no compassion? Like, I'm dead inside and I have more compassion than you. Financial education itself doesn't actually help that much. You know, the data actually supports this, I think. U.S. has a pretty okay financial education, but still extremely divergent wealth. Well, the thing is, not only do you have to have the knowledge, but you have to have the desire, right? This is very similar to religion. I know Jesus rose from the dead, but until you can feel it and understand the atonement, then it becomes real. But there's just simple principles like, I don't think I ever took any financial courses. I mean, like in high school when I was young. But my dad just taught me to save my money, to work hard, to do everything that makes other people feel bad. But I was always a maverick. Like, if so-and-so had a new car, was, muscle car or whatever. I had a lot of friends with muscle cars. No desire to do that. See, it all stems from the desire to be loved and respected. If you can somehow, at a young age, if you can figure this out, you'll have a huge advantage over other people. Take this to the bank, okay? This is advice. Take it to the bank. As soon as you can, if you can get rid of the need to be loved and respected, the better you'll be. But that being said, that doesn't mean you just, become so apathetic that nobody likes you. I mean, you put your nose, you have goals, you set goals for yourself, you work hard to accomplish those goals, but don't expect anybody to like you, love you, respect you. Assume you're almost on an island, and anything that someone else does for you to help you is just gravy. It's just a bonus. Imagine you're all by yourself and you got to do it. Now, this advice for some people will just make them go in their room and cry for 2 hours. And this advice is especially important to teenage girls, women in their 20s. Try to avoid the need of love from a man who wants to stick his thingy into your thingy, and so you get pregnant. Now, you can still get married and then do all the thingies you want and have kids if you can afford it, but I'm just saying, the cause of teenage pregnancy is the desire of young girls to be loved by boys. Does altruism exist? Of course it exists. I got some in my drawer in the other room. But you got to rewind, Charles B. We talked about altruism with Ayn Rand. Fun sex education. Let's go. It's okay. I got a beef with that. I can give you all the sex education you need in 10 seconds. If you're a teenager, keep your pants on. Keep your pants on. Done. Done. You can have all the sex you want, just not that type of sex. You get me? Your mouth can't get pregnant. I just saved millions of dollars in welfare to single teenage mothers. Keep your pants on. Someone should write a song titled Keep Your Pants On. You don't need 12 credit hours in sexual education. All you need to do is tell your kid to come to the Pine Creek's politics channel with me saying, looking you in the eye and saying, keep your pants on. Don't desire the love of this boy just so you can get some attention. Give your dad a hug. Keep your pants on. That's all you do. Your mouth can get okay, but you can't get pregnant. Riddle me that, Rescue Ferret. I dare you to disagree with me there. I think the evangelicals might already have that song. See, but where I differ, I've told you this, where I differ is I'm saying you can have all the fun you want, but just keep your pants on. You could even do billboards. Like outside of every school, you have a huge billboard. Keep your pants on, but have all the fun you want. But keep your pants on. I potentially save billions of dollars in welfare. One billboard. And then show a poor mother and her baby crying as a little bit of emotional appeal. Do you want to be like that? It's a slippery slope, very slippery. Oof. Is that a euphemism? One can argue that unlimited free access to porn has decreased teenage pregnancy by a lot. It's actually decreased relationships, meaningful relationships, a lot too. Parents are most responsible for sex ed. Yes, parents are responsible. See, this is the difference between some leftists and me. My kids are my kids. Your kids are your kids. Some leftists say, my kids is everybody's kids. No. You keep your hands off my kids. Oh yeah, I've watched Succession. I watched it yesterday. That's what materialistic mentalities bring. Kill, love, and you killed the reason to live. Thomas, you realize this is a fictional TV show. And sure, it might represent some people on the planet, but you think that's anywhere close? I don't think so. What about parents who don't know sex ed? I mean, Rescue Ferret, if you're a parent, you at least know the basics of how you make a baby. And what not to do to not make a baby. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Like when I think of sex ed, I think of mostly women's stuff, like that time of the month, that boys get boners, and that it happens without even sometimes thinking about a girl or whatever floats your boat. I mean, if you ask yourself, why is sexual education needed for teenagers? Ask yourself that. What's the number one answer? What's the number one reason? Rescue Ferret answered that for me. What? Are you actually saying you don't think parents know how they got pregnant? No. I think humans, Homo sapiens, figured out how we get pregnant, I think 100,000 years ago. Oh yeah, so if you're now thinking of contraception, yeah, I'm giving a form of contraception. Digital Gnosis mentioned one. I'm mentioning the best contraception is keep your pants on. I think it's way more effective than the pulling out method. I think it's more effective. Like, think about this. What's the success rate of condoms? Is it 95%? People are stupid, Doug. Blastisticful, you must be a leftist, because you have to be a leftist to say that. You need government to help you. Is it 95% on condoms? So if you have sex 100 times a year, 5 times a year, if all you're using for contraception is condoms, you are at risk. Am I right? Even if it's 98%, 2 times a year, it's not going to work. Now, let's say your goal is to not get pregnant. Would you rather have my method of keeping your pants on? Let's say jeans. We're not talking like real pants, something that can't penetrate. My method's better. Now, if you combine condoms with other things, then of course you can get better. You should have at least 2, right? 2 forms of contraception. I advocate 3 if you really don't want to get pregnant. But I advocate my method. I mean, it just makes some people sad that, oh, I really want to do this, and you're telling me I can't. Well, I'm telling you you can do other things. And what percentage of women even orgasm through intercourse? Can someone fact check that? I bet you it's less than 50%. So you men are just being selfish. Someone Google that. What percentage of women reach orgasm through vaginal intercourse? I bet you the answer is under 50%. I bet you it's actually closer, I'm going to guess, 18%. Oh, and Natasha thinks it's 20. So if you men out there really cared about women, you wouldn't do it. Hey, easy, big fella. Easy now. I'm not talking about your wife. Actually, I did. Well, your girlfriend. This advice is going to infuriate Catholic conservatives. No, actually, you know what, Michael? I think some Catholics appreciate my advice. Because even though they might be against condoms, how many Catholics would be against me saying, keep your pants on? Like, how can they be against that? In fact, if Trent Horn were here, he would say, I'm Trent Horn and I support Pine Creek politics. I support this channel. Keep your pants on. What's the keep your pants on? Keep your pants on. We need an R to make it. It's almost like crypto. Kit Kaipo. Can we do something with marketing? I'm changing the world here, one small idea at a time. Kaipo. Kippo. Young people end up making wrong choices because the parents have not taught them about love. Their parents are materialistic people following money who have forgotten what life is about. Well, Thomas, yes, I agree. but they haven't done any parenting or very little parenting. The idea of parenting nowadays is putting their kids in front of the Xbox or a tablet, or letting them watch TikTok all day. My advice to parents of young kids, let's say under 10, early teens, is you make them work. You spend quality time with them outside. I often take my son, who's 17 now, and we work outside, fixing stuff, making stuff. Well, why do I think some leftists, they hear that and they throw up? I get a sense that just teaching your kids to work is bad. I know a lot of you liberals say, "Oh no, Doug, I agree with you there," but there's some leftists out there. It's like, no, that's white supremacy. Teaching your kids to work hard. I miss the Xbox days. Isn't Xbox still a thing? Actually, I guess the new thing with it's not Xbox. It's I got it over there with the VR, the metaverse. What's that called? I paid $300 for it. And then I play VR putt-putt golf and listen to Reed Nicewonder swear. Teach your children to become who they want to be, to do what they love. Maybe, but what if your kid wants to be a pole dancer, Thomas? Or a serial killer, or a bank robber? I just love me robbing some banks. Oculus, thank you, Chris. No, not the Switch, the Oculus. VR is bad? No. VR is good. The Oculus's VR walkabout is amazing. Ah, yes. I still play Wii Golf, Wii Bowling once in a while. How much does pole dancing pay? I bet you it's okay. Like when I did it, wow, this was back in the 80s. I'd make like $150 a night. I still have some singles from those days. Is that loud? Okay, don't be a socialist, okay, guys? Like and subscribe. If you don't like and subscribe, I think you are a left-leaning, granola-crunching person who thinks they deserve free entertainment at no cost to them. My guess is you are a burden to society. You probably don't even pay taxes. You think you can just sit here, listen, laugh, smile, get angry at me for free. If you really were a good person, if you were a good person, you would subscribe. If you're a bad person that nobody loves, you wouldn't subscribe. Yes, I still own the Mario Kart Wii. This used to be a poker channel, yeah, but then we stopped that for good reasons. I'm almost to 1,000 subscribers. 1,000 subscribers, then I will be complete. If I had 1,000 subscribers on this channel, I would finally be able to stop this endless search. And I could feel good about who I am. But I give you the free will to be a bad person. For every subscriber who subscribes to this channel, an African child is fed. True story. Poof.